Welcome to the garden. Today we're playing a game of work last time I used it. And this is where we buy stuff such as this from the usual reputable source of stuff like this. And it's sold as working, and we don't know if it is or not. We'll find out. Now this be 110 volt transformer. Model, doesn't matter. 240, 110, single phase, 50 hertz, 3 kV, so the full size ones. You can get slightly smaller ones, a bit lighter. Serial number made in the UK. Depends when it was made in the UK. Recently, probably not so great, but back in the day, probably works fine. These things this cost about 50p or something like that. They people sell them because they don't need them anymore when they retire, and they weigh about 20 odd kilos. They're really awkward to post, and people just say, come and collect it, and just to get it out of my house because my wife's whinging at me about it. So the live and stuff isn't going to go through because they're separated on either side of the transformer, but the earth should. So we'll just try the earths. Yeah, that goes through. Earth, yeah, grand. Now these things are typically used on building sites and stuff like that in the UK. And although we are fridge people, and we don't actually tend to work on building sites and stuff like that, we weren't born yesterday and we have used tools. So we are slightly familiar with these things. And I think on site they call these reduced low voltage, because they have 3-phase 400 volts, single phase 230, 240 volts, whatever it is. I think it's nominal 230, but it comes out of the hole at 240. And then they have, I think it's called reduced low voltage, which is this, which is 110. And the reason you use 110 volts, we're going to lose that. I know how daft I am. You have 110 volts, and what you do is you put the load between the two lines, and you have an earth centre tapping. Not actually sure if it's a proper centre tapping, but it's certainly sat between the two phases. So you've got your earth here, and then your two phases out here, and you've got 110 volts from phase to phase, which is actually obviously single phase. In the UK, which would be, say, 240 normally from live to neutral, and also kind of live to earth because the earth and the neutral are back in the transformer together. That's 240. And when you do it this way, you end up with 110 between the two live legs, or the hot legs, if you will. And then you end up with 55 to earth. So when you cut through the cable, you only put 55 volts through yourself, and you'll barely even taste it. So, I'm not advising you cut through it, but not the end of the world if you do. It looks kind of all right inside. One thing to notice. That'll be good fun. This socket here is slack as your sister, and they've lost. Someone managed to lose two. Aye. We've found a nut. Comes with 3 spares. Not big enough to get it. Free nut. I could have saved myself a nut when I went to the hardware shop earlier. I had to get some stuff for other things. I thought, while I'm at it, I know these 2 screws are missing, so I'll just go through bolts are missing, I'll get them. So I'll replace those, because, it's useless. As soon as you plug into that, you're not going to be able to get your tool back out. All this, so I haven't looked at this yet, but it all looks, that's the sheathing, that's okay. I thought it was coming out. So it all kind of looks all right. So what we'll do is we'll plug it in, we'll plug a load in, plug it in, see if it works as found before we fix the socket. I'm going to change this cable. There's nothing really wrong with the cable. Assuming it works. But there is with this plug, which is just the wrong sort of plug for an item like this. That's for another day. So, in you go, mate. You've got this nibbly Makita thing. give it a go. Power. Ooh. 3 Bs. Don't know if you can hear that, but it's having the right buzz. Let's just try it. Okay, that one works. Now, unfortunately, I am going to have to try this other socket because it's just not right to not try it, is it? Oh, see the pins are a little bit, they've had a shandy. You might notice the workshop tools are not quite as clean as the electrical tools that live on the electric test bench next to my desk. Well, it works, which is all you can ask of her. Right, out we come. I'll try and bravely unplug this. Out we go. Right, first things first, we'll get those screws on so we can use Mr. Socket. We want you and you. We're from the hardware shop earlier because we needed various things, and while we were there, why not? Find out that the bit on this cheapy crappy bit set is not quite the right size or something like that for this Posi 2. Yeah, Posi Drive 2. The unwanted sequel. You're on. In you go. And you're on. To point out, we are not left-handed, so this is very awkward for me. We'll do it. It's better than it was. I ain't going anywhere. We're going to change this cable as well because I just don't like it. So where do you go? You go into that side of the transformator. We're going to need a spade for that. Not sure if I've got a spade of that size. Before we do anything, I'm going to go and check. Because if we haven't, that'll be a spanner in the works, and not the right sort of spanner. Well, what can I say? It turns out we were born yesterday and we were making a liar of ourselves. But we do have a blue spade for that. So that's good. So we get this neutral out, the live off, we are unplugged. Pocket. Otherwise someone on the terminal will come and plug it in for you. You'll taste the rainbow, taste the painbow. God, it's completely unreachable. No, it is coming. It's just being awkward. Okay, we're off. Mr. Neutral out. Of course, leave the earth on until last. There you come, correctly terminated. Nice to see, it's probably an original. Nice, and of course you're going to be the bottom one. And of course none of these sockets are going to be deep enough for that. I mean, it fits on, we just can't drive it. Has it got enough for a nibble? Of course not. Be too easy, wouldn't it? And of course, no doubt the spanners close by will be too big. Absolutely hate these adjustable spanners. But sometimes needs must. A lot of the techs in the field use them on the fridge system, so it can't quite be as bad as I make out. I don't suppose the order matters. Don't tell it. Now the problem is, before anyone says this cable's perfectly fine, right, the cable is, it's alright, proper size. Problem with this plug here. And this plug is I think it's urea formaldehyde, these ones are made of. And they're a thermoset plastic. And they're strong, but they're brittle. And the other thing is they don't seal here. There's a great big hole in the bottom. And if you're on site in the UK, there's going to be a lot of dust around. There's going to be a lot of crap around. It's going to be raining, obviously. And when you've been on site for 15 minutes, this plug is just going to get filled with foreign objects and fluids, which also quite coincidentally is also just like your sister. But what that means is that you're going to blow the fuse somewhere or trip the MCB or whatever protection they have. I mean, yeah, it looks alright inside. But yeah, the problem is this bit, and see, it's strong when it's together, but it's brittle. And you give that a couple of knocks, throw it around a little bit, and put that on the right way. First day, mate. And it's just going to get cracked, damaged, and let all crap in and all that sort of thing. So there's nothing really wrong with it, apart from the fact it's the wrong sort of plastic. It's thermoset with a gap in it, or with a hole in it. Whereas this one that we had lying around anyway, for something else that we never got around to, or we didn't have to make in the end. That's ABS, which is just a thermoplastic, and it's moulded. And you see, you haven't got the ingress risk that you've got anywhere, and it's sort of softy, so you can scratch into it a bit. It's not soft, it's tough. It's not as brittle, not as strong and brittle, but it is tougher, it's harder wearing. So it's a better choice for something like this. Through these go. What were you, mate? Phillips 2? No, you're Phillips 1, weren't you, mate? That was it. Cock. So what we'll do is we'll plug it back in, and then we'll just measure the voltage and make sure it's alright, and try it again. Make sure it works, and we're done. Bang! Got you. Buzzing the same as it was before. I don't know if you can hear that, but I can. So if we go to here and here, we should have 110 volts. We got 112, which is presumably because of the voltage is higher than 230 going in. And it says 240, 110. Be a bit higher now. And if I go to earth, it'll be 55, 55.6, and the other one 55.5, 5.4. Either way, cut through the wire and put yourself across the phase to earth, which it'll be when you cut one of them. Goes through you down to ground. What you're going to find is you'll barely even taste it. It'll be fine. Whereas, obviously, if you're at the full fat 240 volts, make your hair look silly for a while. But other than that, probably nothing would happen anyway. But don't try it. Off you come. You Phillips 3. Whoop, in you go. These where these nuts and bolts go, there are captive nuts underneath. There's a cutout for them, and they, as you fasten them on like this, they slide up into it, so you can let go and you're not required to hold it, and you can just one-handed. Done. Oh good, we've got a spare part. Well, we can worry about that another day. Must be out the cable grabber, but it's tight enough. Right, back in. Nibbly back in. Nibbles. Nibbles. We're good. Now all we need is to go back inside and find out where that's from. Perfect, we're done. That's all she wrote.